Cassie, when I first met her, she was the sweetest girl. I always looked at her as like my little sister, and she was young. She was like always so sweet and such a beautiful spirit.
Well, you're one of the few people who are actually speaking up about what they saw. Why have you come forward now?
Well, I have a long standing history with Puff and Cass is a friend of mine, and I met her before she was in the music industry. And you know, I've I've kept this very quiet for 14 years. I mean, it's been a very long time. And once I saw the video, I just felt like I need to say something, and I know that it's frowned upon to talk about, these sort of things when you're in the industry, because you're dealing with a very powerful person. And but they're, human, like humans are involved. And Cass is she's a woman, and she was treated very poorly, and not just poorly, but like it's almost um I don't even know the word for it.
14 years is a long time to stay quiet about something you knew.
Yeah, and I had to, because I am an industry professional, and these are certain things that you can't really like come forward with. Even with Cassie, being with Cassie at the time, we both couldn't say anything. So we just kind of kept quiet about it and went about our lives after that.
That must take its toll after a while, knowing what you saw and then now knowing what we're hearing. How are you feeling looking back on those years?
Well, looking back, and also like with the court cases coming out in November, um, reading them through, I was just really shocked to see what he was doing to her. And that really triggered me as a woman and as a friend. It really like it put me in a kind of in a little bit of a deep depression, because I couldn't believe that these things were going on and I didn't know about it. And I just found out, like with the rest of the world, that all the things that Puff had done to Cassie behind closed doors was really shocking to me.
Are you feeling a bit guilty?
Yeah, I of course. I mean, how can I, as a human being, how could I not feel guilty? Especially introducing her to this world, because I knew her as a model when she was 16, 17 years old, pre-music industry. And she's like just like a little sister to me all those years. And for me to witness what I witnessed in 2010 was really shocking. And honestly, I still have PTSD from that experience. Because I mean, like we couldn't really talk to anyone about it. Not a therapist, not, people around us. We had to like keep that very silent for so many years. And that's just not a good place to be.
Puff Daddy at the time, Diddy now, he's such a huge name in that industry. You understand why you can't dob on him, but to not even be able to speak to people in that circle, in that industry, I mean, that's painful to hear.
Yeah, and there's nothing that we can't do anything about it. We have to sign NDAs, and if we do come out, something could happen to us in the process, lose our jobs, lose our life. There's so many things that can happen, and these are things that we have to think about prior to coming out. And the only reason why I'm now is because everything is out in the open, and it's actually kind of cathartic for me to speak about it. And like, if I can help another woman go through her experiences, then that to me is just, I I want to be able to like pay it forward somehow.
One of the striking things for me has been seeing how young Cassie was at the time when she entered that world. She looked like a baby, that it started so soon.
Yeah, she was very young. I mean, she was like only in her teens, and it was the early part of her life, like the early part of our lives. We just wanted to have fun and like go out and like enjoy our lives at an early age. She was already experiencing some of the things that we would have never even thought about in our lifetime. So it was really just, it was disappointing and shocking at the same time.
Take me to 2010, what you know. I mean, prior to that incident, had you seen anything awry leading up to that moment?
Not with Cass and Puffy. I mean, like, honestly, like, I worked with Puff as his groomer with Kim Porter. I traveled the world with them. So, like, like I said, as an industry professional, we go do our jobs and then leave.
What signs did you see that now, looking back in retrospect, were concerning?
Of course, he's Puffy. He's I can't even explain it. I mean, like, what you see on video is who he is. Like, what you see, how Puff behaves in videos and social media, that's Puff, and we've always just kind of like shrugged it off our shoulders. That's just Puff.
It's a really common thing that's said, isn't it? That's just Puff. You're privileged to work here, I suppose.
That's exactly what it is. Like, we're dealing with like A-list celebrities. That's kind of like our position. You're privileged to be there and fortunate to be in these rooms with, the 1% of the world. And as, with my career, I was just really focused on Mylah and what I'm going to do as far as like my work. So everything else just kind of like, what was I supposed to do in those moments? But just take care of Cass as a human being, and you knowing her for so long, um, it it's just like the big sister that has to take care of their little sister, and that's the only thing I can do behind closed doors.
Well, take me to that moment. What abuse did you witness?
Well, I was outside of the room, so we were just coming from a photo shoot, and we were in the hotel room. I fall asleep on the couch because we were just out all day. Wake up to him storming in the room and screaming, "Where is she?" They shut the door and everything just started happening. And I saw the aftermath, the bruises, the busted lip, the knots on the head. And, of course, we couldn't take her to a hospital. So we went back to my house and I called my friend who's a doctor. And thank God she was in town. And I asked her to treat Cass at the time because we couldn't go to the hospital. We couldn't call anyone.
You felt like you couldn't?
No, we couldn't. You think we could have done that back then? No, hell no. Absolutely not. That would not be safe for any of us.
That's terrifying to think, Mylah, that you didn't feel safe actually going to an emergency room when your friend was really badly injured.
Yeah, I mean, we're not dealing with like, a normal person, and the person that actually did the abuse is somebody who's like powerful, and that's not something we can take lightly.
What is it about Diddy's circle that makes them so loyal? So many people, as you say, would have ignored what was going on.
I mean, to be honest with you, these are their jobs, and it's not about being loyal. It's more so like this is your job. And I mean, it goes back to centuries when they're like people in positions of power. What are the servants going to do? There's maybe like two other people that knew about the incident that happened that night. This is 6 years prior to the actual incident. The video that you saw, the CNN video, 6 years prior to that.
It's eerily similar, isn't it? But what were you hearing behind that door?
Yelling and just a scuffle going on in the room. Obviously, I don't even remember what I was hearing because I tuned that out already. But because I was literally like, it's PTSD, it's trauma. Like, you don't, like, what? Stop. That's all I could say is stop. Like, what do you do? How do you? In that situation, I mean, like, all I can think about was like, should I call the police? Should I call the security? I did not know what to do at that moment.
How long did that go on for?
I don't even remember, to be honest with you. I don't remember. It's like that moment in time was just like, I don't quite remember that particular moment, just after the fact.
Describing those injuries, knots to the head, bruises, when she walked out that room, how did she look?
Like, that moment, we were just rushing out. But it was obviously after, when we got to my house, we were like, oh my God, this is just insane. Like, I can't believe that he actually did this to you. You can't be with this, can't be around him anymore. Like, you have to escape somehow. But obviously, it didn't happen.
When you did take a moment to look at her and see her injuries, describe to me, how badly was she banged up?
It was really bad. I don't know how any man could hurt another human being that way. In general, I mean, I don't care if it's just a slap in the face or you just shouldn't be beating on women like that. That's just horrific.
What was Cassie saying?
Nothing. I mean, what can she say? I'm sure she was very embarrassed. I don't know. I can't speak on her behalf. It's like, especially if that went on and you know the person in front of you. It's not like somebody that's a stranger or whatnot. You know this person, which is me. And what do you say to somebody like me after that?
I mean, how old is she at this point?
That was 2010. So how old? She's 38 now. So that was like, she might have been like in her like early 20s. And that's like the beginning of your like life, your adult life. And to have to deal with something like that on such a high, scale, like especially, it's different if you're just a random housewife, but this is something that, is on for the public to find out about, and if the public finds out, then that's a whole scandal. So, I'm not saying anything, one situation is different from the other, but we were dealing with something a little bit different. And there's nobody that we can really like call upon to help.
What do you remember when that door swung open? What do you remember? Was Diddy there? Did you see him, or did Cassie come out and you just fled straight away?
He left, and then we were just collecting her things, like packing her bags, because she was staying at the hotel. So like, we were just packing her bags to get out of there, rushing out of there just in case, we didn't know what was going to happen after that moment. When you can't think, you're just acting upon like a reaction and emotion. You're not really thinking. You're just doing what is necessary to get to be safe.
So was it just you and Cassie there at that moment? You must have been pretty
Yeah.
scared yourself.
Yeah, I was frightened. Like, this is not a normal everyday occurrence. This is something that's like major. You just don't. How do you react to these things? How do you put your head on straight? You're acting upon emotion at this point and fear. You're not thinking about, okay, logically, like, what do we do now? We're just dealing with what we had to deal with at the moment.
Did you work with Diddy after that?
I stopped working with him in 2005 because I didn't want to be in that world anymore. And the only reason why I dealt with him after the fact is because Cassie was a friend of mine. So it, kind of trickled over. Like, the industry is very small, and this is why, we can't really say certain things, because it is a small industry, very, very small. We all know each other. So, there's certain things that we do have to keep private.
Earlier this year, that video emerges from that hotel room. How did you feel seeing that, knowing that that was 6 years after?
I cried for like days because I could not believe what I was witnessing. Like, I could not believe it. It hurt me so. Yeah, it triggered. Like, it was hard for me to watch. Like, it was so hard for me to watch. And I cried for days because I just couldn't believe that man was physically abusing her like that. That really upset me. And I just thought about the years of that. Like, he's a monster. He's literally a monster. And I'm disgusted and I'm embarrassed that, he could actually treat women and humans that way. That's just despicable.
It's bad enough what we saw in that video in the hallway of that hotel. But I guess you have an insight into what might have happened behind closed doors, and that must be terrifying.
It was terrifying. That's why when I watched that video, it was so jarring to actually see it with my own eyes, because I did not see what went on in that room, but like I know what happened after the fact. And just watching that video, I just can't. I feel like, what could I have done to change things, But what was there, what was I gonna do?
Do you still speak to Cassie? Are you still friends?
Of course, I texted her after the fact, but I like to, I'm very private. I've been very private over the years, and I just know how people deal with certain things, and you just have to give everyone their privacy. So I just give people their privacy. And this is my story to tell. I'm not speaking on behalf of Cassie or anyone else. It's just like, this is what I experienced, and I just don't feel like this sort of thing shouldn't like continue to happen to anyone.
She started a groundswell here. I mean, turn the tide, one would say, against not only Diddy but the industry. Is this the music industry's Me Too moment?
Yeah, I think so.
Experiencing what you've experienced, knowing what you've known, can you have confidence that it is going to change?
I don't know, because like the music industry is a whole nother beast. I mean, the whole entertainment industry is another beast. So I don't know what is going to change. I hope there will be a change. I hope, but we just never know.
And you're still working in it. I mean, how do you feel seeing the things you've seen?
I mean, I honestly, any career there's always going to be these hardships, and I feel like we just have to move on and just heal from it. And that's kind of like what I'm doing over the years. I've been just really healing from all the traumas that I've experienced being in the industry.
If that video hadn't have come out, I can't imagine that would be speaking about this now. It's a tough watch, but it gave people the strength to speak up. Why is it important for you to come forward now?
It's important because it's a personal thing for me. Like, what happened with Cassie and that in that video, it really hurt. It triggered a very strong emotion in me because I've witnessed it. It's not something that I like, even as people that I know who don't know her were triggered. So imagine, like, for me, it was like a thousandfold. It shocked and hurt me beyond words. I can't even imagine, like, I can't even describe how I felt at that moment watching it. And I just couldn't even believe, like, he could actually treat her like some sort of like thing, not even a human. Like, it was just absolutely disgusting.
What does justice look like for those victims?
Honestly, I don't know what's going to happen to them, because what's going to happen now? Like, where do they go from here? My own guilt made me feel crazy from my experience, and I can't even imagine what they're going through. The only way we're going to hold him accountable is if, something is done to make him stop. And I think that what's happening now, Cassie opened up the floodgates. So hopefully, like, he realizes the damage he's done to so many different people and so many different families and so many different lives. Hopefully these people can move forward from this. Hopefully.